Boop, boop, boop. Years ago, I discovered the power of mindful photography in helping with emotional struggles. In fact, so much so, I wrote a book on it called the Mindful Photography Field Guide. The field guide is subtitled 15 Smartphone Photography Practices for Inner Peace. So I ask you today, just how mindful is your camera? Is it simple? Does it get out of the way? Is it really complex? And does it kind of keep your focus more on the interface and the complexity of it and the device itself, rather than taking the shot? I mean, maybe the most important question is does it put a smile on your face? Here's my little Instax instant camera. So today we're going to be asking those same questions about the Fuji X100VI. I was thinking about a crazy idea lately. There ought to be a mindfulometer for cameras that kind of rate them on their mindfulness quality. So I thought, well, if there were a mindfulometer, what would that rate it on? And I thought first, simplicity. Does the camera get out of your way? Is it sort of simplicity about the hardware device itself? Classic example of the camera getting out of the way, the iPhone. As long as you put it on airplane mode before you start shooting. I thought of the focus. So simplicity and the focus of the camera. And I don't mean like its ability to focus, but how focused is the camera on what it's intended to do of taking the shot? Is it really made for one thing and it does that thing really well? And then the last thing I thought about, was just good old-fashioned fun. Isn't that what we're here to do? And fun, it doesn't get any more mindful than fun. That's what we're here to do, is kind of escape this crazy world that we live in, get out and be part of God's creation. So join Frankie and me as we take a little hike outside of Glenwood Springs, and we're going to ask the question, just how mindful is the Fuji X100VI? Check out these videos. We're going to start off with some video clips, and then I'm going to end this with a little photo slideshow for you. So I'll make some comments on these videos. Starting out here at the trailhead, the first thing that I wanted to do with the Fuji was to dial into the film simulation that I was going to use that day. I decided to go with a Vivid or Velvia film simulation, and both for stills and this video that I'm shooting here. So I suggest that you really decide on that look for that particular outing. So here we are. As you can see, the IBIS is a wee bit lacking in this camera. Notice that I have the hardware IBIS turned on, but I don't have the software turned on top of that. So it takes a little while for this thing to acquire focus. Quick little snap there. Overall, okay. Here's where I'm just holding the camera steady, all is well. But boy, you start to go moving like that, like some kind of a tilt upward. Not only is it shaky, but notice how it struggles with the auto exposure. Same kind of thing happens here. Here I am, I'm hand holding it, I'm tapping to focus off of the back screen. Don't like how blown out the sky is. Gorgeous detail, gorgeous colors. Video, pretty tricky to hold it super steady. Challenges with exposure. Here I like this nice little rack focus here going back. That was a quick jump, it was okay. Love this shot right here. In fact, a couple of those ones earlier, I had to lower the exposure, but this is straight out of camera exposure. Real nice, saturated, beautiful look. Here's a tilt up, and my shaky hands just cannot keep this camera stable. It would need some sort of a gimbal or steadier hands than mine for sure. Here I am talking next to the creek behind the camera. My mouth is about 10 inches away from the back of the camera. Look at those tack welds right there, handmade pulleys. The vivid setting, this Velvia, is just perfect for this. And a little shaky here, but just look at how beautiful and sumptuous these colors are. So rich. Now I'm shooting these at f2, so it's a very shallow depth of field. Middle of the summer, sunflowers. Gorgeous. I think I had it on continuous autofocus. Now notice right here, I move off to the right and I'm clicking on the screen to get it to change focus, and it wouldn't. And I found this a lot. It really gets stuck. Big fat bees in the middle of the summer. I just love the coloration here, the tones, the shadows. Right here again, I was tapping on the right side of the screen, focus, and it wouldn't do it. Now, could be user error. I'm not going to deny that. It's a pretty decent job on Frankie's face here. This is a great example right here of just holding the camera steady and let the movement take place in the scene rather than me moving the camera. My favorite shot of the day, some trailside wild blueberries. Now hang tight with me. We're going to watch some stills here in just a second, but if there were a mindfulometer with simplicity, focus, and fun, how would the X100 measure up to that? Simplicity-wise, I'd give it a 5. I'm not sure I'd give it any higher than that. Now, this would probably be a 2, but it is a complex little device. This is a learning curve right here. It's good, and the simplicity part can kind of improve over time. As I get better and better, and as I get to know the camera better, then some of that will just become shorthand, and it'll become simpler and simpler for me. Is this device, does it bring me in and focus me on photography, or like so with a Sony, or is it the device itself? Is it in my way? But does this really bring me into that magic photographic moment? And I would say pretty darn good at that. I'd give it a 7. And that's something that will probably get better over time too. As far as the fun factor goes, well, do I even need to answer that question? Look at this smile on my face. Does it put a smile on your face? I'm telling you, it is a fun camera. So is this, that an Instax, and what could be more fun than something that develops right before your eyes, right? Yay! Does it instill a childlike wonder in you? That's what we ought to be asking about our cameras, our outings, our photography in general. Have we gotten so lost in the complexity and the perfection of it that we've lost that childlike wonder? And I would say that this has some good potential in that area. What are some ways that you can foster mindfulness with the Fuji? Well, one thing is to acknowledge that this is a complex device. So I'd encourage you, make the learning part of it mindful. Maybe if there's some aspect of the camera that you don't know very well, just focus on that one thing when you go on an outing and learn that one thing. So I'd call that kind of mindful learning. Don't shoot raw. Shoot raw with cameras like this, but with this right here, use the film sims. look at a child and think, if I gave this camera to a child and showed them what would they do? They would be using film sims and experimenting and having fun with it. Let that childlike wonder kind of let you go forward without worrying all about bringing in the photos into Lightroom and making these perfect tweaks. Use what the camera was designed for. And Fuji is obviously all about these film simulations. And lastly, I'd say this about the Fuji or any camera that you use, making it a mindful experience: follow the light. Always look at this light right here coming in. Follow that light. Let the light kind of dictate the photo more than the subject. And if you do that and you get better and better at that, number one, your photography is going to be amazing, but also you're going to start to notice that light inside you more and more. Friends, thanks so much for subscribing. Check out this little slideshow I put together for you and let me know in the comments below what you think.